Well, hello again. Hopefully you had a good time reflecting and answering those questions during your activity. And now we're going to move on and talk about different types of accountability strategies. So this is building on some of what we touched on just a few minutes ago. And we're going to talk about specific strategies for specific responses, and then also talk about some of the universal strategies, the things that will work for everybody, and then very specific strategies that will only work for certain type of responses. So let's get into it. I think that one of the most valuable skills that people can learn when it comes to accountability strategies is something that Gretchen Rubin referred to as loophole spotting. And so I'm going to give you an example of that because a lot of us will do it in different ways. Questioners, though, this one is especially for you. Loophole spotting is when you find yourself second guessing the plan that you created in the moment that you're required to do a thing. So I know that sounds a little bit confusing. Let me give you an example. I am an endurance athlete. I'm an ultra runner. I love running. I'm getting older and cross training is important. And you know what I hate? I hate cycling. I hate it a lot. And when I see that pop up on the training plan, loophole spotting would be something along these lines. Oh, well, I don't know if today's a good day for cycling, though. It's a little bit cold outside. Or, ooh, I don't know if today is a good day for cycling because, well, my run's going so well, I should just finish running instead. So it's anything you say to yourself in that moment to convince yourself not to do the thing that you committed to. So you're not going to meet that expectation because you've now excused it in some way, shape, or form. The real challenge with loophole spotting is that if you are an incredibly skilled questioner and there's a lot of overthinking, critical thinking all the time, you can convince yourself in the moment that not doing the thing that you had committed to is the smartest, best thing to do. So the strategy is to notice those patterns, and guess how you notice them over time? Reflection. This is why we need to be sitting down. This is why we need to be asking ourselves good questions. No judgment, just curiosity, because you'll end up finding patterns. Like you may only make exceptions in certain areas of your life, not others, but knowing what those are would be really helpful. Next up is an interesting one. So there's abstaining and moderating when it comes to accountability. I think one way of thinking about this is, let's say that you're at work, or maybe you're in a research lab, maybe you are writing an article, maybe, I don't even know, guys, maybe you're just decluttering your house, and let's say it's lunchtime. And you're alone, so you think, well, it'd be really nice to maybe watch a show on Netflix while I eat. So come back, abstaining and moderating, okay? If you sit down to watch an episode of Netflix while you eat your lunch, and then for the rest of the day you are eating Cheetos and watching Netflix, and you're not going back to work, you, my friend, are going to need to be an abstainer. That's me. I know that if I end up taking long breaks during the workday, chances are I'm not coming back to work. Moderators, on the other hand, can watch just the one episode of Netflix and come back and lock it in and still, do all the things that they said they were going to do that day. So sometimes abstaining and moderating ends up coming down to people feeling like, oh, was it disciplined? Like, am I just disciplined or not disciplined? And it's a little bit more complex than that. It has a lot to do with your pleasure center receptors, what feels really good to you in the moment. And so I would just encourage you, once again, curiosity, not judgment, to see what it is that you're doing under which circumstances and why. Do you need to not do any of it, or can you do some of it? What's going to be best for you? Next up is this idea of a to-do list. We all have them. I probably have 60 of them in my bag right now, crumpled up at the bottom. But a to-do list is really important, but the way that we treat a to-do list needs a lot of improvement. So a to-do list should be a dynamic, living, breathing thing. Your to-do list is not a list of everything that must be done today. That's what we're doing when we're prioritizing. But your to-do list should kind of grow and shrink as the days pass. I also think that, to-do list is really nice from a planning perspective because especially if you are a questioner or if you are a rebel, so if you enjoy being able to pick and choose in the moment what it is you want to do, having that to-do list, sticking to a list, and then being able to come back and being like, well, whether or not that thing is going to fit well today, whatever the case might be, you'll be able to decide. So yes, to-do list, very important. Another thing that I like to talk to students about when we think about, different types of strategies that you can employ, and we mention reflection, what I really want you guys to think about is that reflection truly is like having just more awareness of when and how you're responding and under what circumstances. So that can be really helpful as well. Reflection can help with clarity. So this is going to be important for most tendencies. Let's just run through them and talk about clarity for a second. So clarity strategy. Number one, an upholder, I need clarity so that I can plan my day, so that I know what commitments I'm making, and I can sort of budget energy. That's how I like to think of it. I need to know what's happening. I need a lot of predictability because performance is my goal. Clarity for obligers is very important because then you can figure out what the why is and create appropriate boundaries. So for example, if an obliger tends to prioritize other people over themselves, right? And let's say that they really want to start, working out more. Let's say they want to start gardening. They want to start doing anything that they want to do. They need to create time within their day that is completely and totally protected and then communicate that boundary successfully to other people. And so having clarity around your why, like why do I want to be doing this thing? Why is this thing important to me? Also important. Questioners, obviously, you got to have the buy-in. So you need clarity. Why is this plan the right plan? Why is it that when I write all of these things down, I'm struggling to meet certain expectations? Asking and being able to answer the why. Once a questioner has the answers, it's so much easier for them then to actually meet both internal and external expectations. And then rebels with clarity. Clarity and identity are so closely tied. So it's very much about what is going to be right for me? What is going to be best for me? And being able to answer why and being able to map how it is that we get there. External accountability, right? We've talked a little bit about. And so accountability partners can be really beneficial as well. We chatted about that just a minute ago, so I won't go into too much depth, but that's having somebody else that knows what it is that you're working on that can help hold you accountable as well. So this is great for obligers. It can honestly be good though for any of the tendencies, especially if you guys do like to, maybe have some social time when you're trying to meet certain goals or expectations. And so just having somebody else that's involved, somebody you can meet in a place, somebody who knows what you're working on can be very useful. Identity. We talked about rebels and identity, but all tendencies benefit from exploring identity in reflections. And we are going to be talking more about that. But in short, what are the things that make me me and how can I support them? So that's the easiest way, I think, for most of us to be able to answer the why. Why do I want to wake up at 3:30 in the morning and go run for 4 hours? Well, because that's a big part of my life. It's a big part of who I am. It's 100% worth it. The return on investment is high, right? All of this kind of comes to the surface when you're working on reflection. So who are you and why do these things benefit you? Contingency planning. This is going to be especially important if you have something really critical, let's say a big deadline that you're trying to meet, a goal you're really trying to achieve. In any given day, we would like to be able to have all of the predictability, right? But most of us know that, maybe you get a flat tire and maybe your kid's sick. Maybe there's a family emergency. It doesn't really matter what the reason is. What matters is what it does to the plan and how you can talk to yourself about it afterwards, right? So building trust with yourself, like building a relationship with yourself where for example, you can meet your expectations, meet other expectations. That's closely connected to trust, right? So you're asking yourself to trust yourself when you make these commitments. Now, if life happens and that commitment cannot be met, then what? So with contingency plans, we're able to say okay, so This wasn't something that like I blew off today. There was something big and external that occurred that prevented me from, I don't know, making my meeting, something that prevented me from doing my full run, something that prevented me from meeting with a friend, right? Something external that impacted your ability to do something. And that's significantly different than me just feeling like, well, I'm just not in the mood, so I'm not going today, right? Contingency planning is built on your ability to be able to identify whether am I the problem or is it something else? And regardless, if in your mind you can sort of rehearse your day and you're like, okay, so if the line at the post office ends up taking an extra hour to get through and I lose an hour, then how do I recover that during the day? Or, how do I prepare myself for that mentally or emotionally? And if you're an upholder, you know exactly what I mean, because having something not go to plan or losing an hour in the day can feel really devastating. But if in advance you can anticipate when these things might happen and be able to think of a solution, things will be much easier. Are we ready for another activity? Yes, we are. So by now, you probably have some idea of how you're responding to expectations. We've chatted a little bit about strategies. So out of the ones that we mentioned, which ones do you think would be most beneficial to you and why? And to give you an example of what I'm looking for me, the strategies that are most beneficial are clarity, contingency planning, and abstaining. I'm an upholder. Those are the 3 that work best for me. So why don't you all take a few minutes, think about which ones might work best for you, and be able to answer why.